Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Faceless, a Japanese dramatic thriller from 2024. The following plot synopsis was taken from the Japan Times. Ryusei Yokohama plays Keiichi Kaburagi, a young man sentenced to death for the brutal killings of a family of 3, based on the shaky testimony of the sole survivor, a grandmother suffering from dementia. After pulling off an audacious, if implausible, escape from custody, he goes on the lam, pursued by the detective who originally put him behind bars, played by Takayuki Yamada. Keiichi's flight takes him first to a construction site in Osaka, where he strikes up a cautious friendship with a coworker. But after his cover gets blown, he moves on to Tokyo and finds work as a freelance writer, as well as a place to stay courtesy of his editor. And all the while, he's amassing evidence that might prove he's innocent of a crime he insists he did not commit. So the opening scene of this movie definitely grabs your attention, with our main character shoving a sharp object into his mouth, causing blood to gush out of him. It's quite intense. And as it turns out, this is his escape attempt. So this successfully gets him into the back of an ambulance, after which he engages in a scrappy fight against some cops, and then he goes on the run. And then we as viewers follow him around as he goes from place to place. Now, as he settles into all these different places, you wonder if one of the side characters that he interacts with is going to recognize him from the TV wanted photos, because his prior conviction and escape are big stories in the country, so the media just continues to cover it. So his face is all over the place in the media. And as the film implies, he can change his appearance significantly. And I do think the filmmakers do a good job of changing his look at different moments in the film. However, there's always a risk for him that someone will make a connection, find out who he is, and then report to the cops. So you're wondering at the beginning, right, is this guy innocent or guilty of these crimes? He seems like a decent dude, so you almost default into assuming he's innocent. But I think the movie does a pretty good job of making him a little bit creepy near the beginning. I would say during Act 1, you have some doubts as to what's going on. After a little while, however, you will probably fall on one side of that equation and have a conclusive opinion on it. So after Act 1, it turns to more of a straightforward type character study. I wish it would have kept that ambiguity longer, where you're kind of wondering, is this guy a bad guy or a good guy? My main criticism with this story is that each section of the film feels kind of similar. You know, he kind of restarts his life, changes his look, gets someone suspicious of him for some reason, and then he moves and then restarts his life again, and then you kind of repeat the process. His presence does make an impact on each of these people's lives as he's moving around. But I would say there's not a lot of character development in this film. It's pretty basic characterization, and the revelations in the story are also not that clever. You know what I mean? They rely on some contrivances like dementia or amnesia, a few questionable character decisions, stuff like that. In terms of thrills, there are some short-lived confrontations, but none of them are real great, memorable individual set pieces. However, the premise in this film is something that I'm very receptive to, like a criminal on the run, the detective tracking him down. There is some good character interaction in the movie, I think, between our main character and these people that he meets in each of these towns or cities. I think they do a pretty good job of that. Also, I've always enjoyed watching Takayuki Yamada as the detective. You'll remember him from some Takashi Miike movies like the Crow Zero films, 13 Assassins are some examples. He was also in The Naked Director more recently. So I do think this movie does enough to be watchable. I would not strongly recommend this due to its conventionality and kind of lack of depth, but it is a watchable affair, and it does have some pretty good character interaction with it. It's available streaming on Netflix. And as always, folks, I'll see you next time.